I remember feeling so embarrassed when my teacher discovered that I couldn't sight read very well. He set down a level 1, like a beginner book in front of me, and I even knew what song it was, but when I tried to play it, it didn't sound anything like what it was supposed to. And fast forward to college, I was studying music, but I really felt like an imposter. I felt like I could only sight read simple things well, and I was totally terrified of sight reading in front of anyone. But I wanted to figure this out, and so I started watching all of the best sight readers that were in my program. And I noticed that they all had one thing in common. And when I started to incorporate that into my playing, I felt like I started playing more fluently. I felt like I could play more complex music easier as well. And so what I noticed is that these pianists were so locked into the score, meaning that when they sight read something, they could play the piano without looking at their hands at all, and they could just look at the score and just go at it. And I felt like when I was practicing, I would have to check what note I was playing and then pop back up into the score. You'd see my head kind of bobbing back and forth as I went between the piano and the score. And what I realized is that our brains are a little bit like a computer in the sense that there's only so much information that they can process at once. And so by constantly looking down at my hands, I was actually limiting the amount of information my brain could take in at once. The other sight readers, because they didn't have to look at their hands, they could spend all of their time and all of their energy looking at and processing the music. So it wasn't necessarily that I was bad at recognizing notes, it was that I actually just couldn't process them in a way that made the music seem fluent. And so how does that even work? How can a pianist play the piano at all without looking at it? And it's something called proprioception. Proprioception is this kind of like a sixth sense. It's something maybe you didn't know you had. What it allows you to do is it allows you to close your eyes and put your finger on your nose or your ear or your forehead. It's your body's sense of itself in space. And we can leverage that at the piano by helping our body to figure out how to navigate up and down so that we don't have to look at our hands while we play our sheet music. So what I've done for you is I've identified 4 kind of categories of things that you should be able to play without having to look at it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some exercises. I have a free PDF download because why not, down there in the description. And so you can grab those exercises and work along those with me. And I really hope that helps improve your sight reading too. So there are 4 things you should be able to do without looking at your hands while you're sight reading. The first is if your hand's in a particular spot on the piano, you should be able to play all the notes within that area. So I'm going to call that playing within the octave or playing within an 8-note range. The next one is thumb crossings where other fingers cross over the thumb. Then the last 2 are leaps and chords. So I'm going to have an exercise or a couple of exercises for each of those, and I hope this helps. So let's look at within the octave first. What I'm doing here is you can see that the right hand is spread here between pinky and thumb, between C to C. I just have lots of notes in the middle. And so as you practice this, I would recommend maybe you learn a measure and then see if you can close your eyes and do it. Bonus points if you close your eyes, because that's going to kind of help you also work on your memory at the piano as well. So I would try and play this eyes closed. But if you need to look at the score, that's just fine too. And for this particular one, I wrote this exercise because I thought it sounded really nice to play it hands together. You do not have to play it hands together. I'd recommend doing right hand then left hand separately, but I think it sounds kind of nice hands together. Anyway, that's a nice little exercise. It's really pretty, I think. So again, all we're trying to do is just trying to get used to playing these fingers inside of this octave position. Now, one quick note that I have for you to prevent any bad habits from happening is I don't want you to feel like your hand is locked into this octave position. I think you should feel free to move. You can see my hand is kind of moving back and forth. What we don't want to do is be so rigid and locked in place that our technique suffers. We want to be able to move, but still be able to find all of our notes. So I would totally recommend, as you play your pinky, pull your thumb away and practice going back and finding that thumb like home base. Okay, the next one is thumb crossings. These are pretty simple. And again, I've just written a couple of couple of simple exercises here. All we're doing is we're working on, can I feel confident getting my second finger, my pointer finger here, to hop over my thumb? And if I can do that, then I'm gonna be in a great place to be able to play any sort of scale or melodic thing that's going to happen in our songs. Okay, now we're getting to something that's a little bit more challenging, which is leaps. Now what's hard about leaps is that we're all scared of them. Whenever a leap comes up, we're always like, oh, better make sure it's accurate, better make sure we're gonna hit it right. And so what these exercises are gonna do is help you to feel confident just finding these leaps and finding these jumps. And I've written these right hand and left hand separately. They're a little bit different because I like variety, you know? So here's the first leaps exercise. And I have kind of a funny recommendation for this, is that I want you to feel comfortable, again, moving around the piano and not feeling like you have to kind of babysit your hand as you jump from leap to leap. So what I would do is for these bottom notes, I would use your thumb. And then for the top note, this is where it gets a little interesting. I would recommend doing all of those with pinky. So we're starting on G, or starting on C, then jumping up to G, and then up to A, and then G, and then A, and then we get a little bit higher. And again, what you want to do is see if you can get really good at, not having to watch your hand. Now, you might be saying, oh, I don't know if I can make this leap. Can I give you a suggestion, a practice tip? This tip comes from a study that they did with high schoolers who were in gym class. And what they had the high schoolers do was they had them practice throwing balls into a basket. And now what's really interesting about this is that they had one group of students practice throwing balls into a basket that was 5 feet away. Then they had a second group of students that practiced throwing balls into a basket that was 3 feet away and then 7 feet away. And then at the end, they tested everyone, but only on the 5-foot basket. Now, I'm curious what you think. Which group do you think did better? The one who practiced on the 5-foot basket, or the ones who practiced on the 3-foot and the 7-foot basket? Now, maybe based on the way that I told that story, you might have guessed the second group that did the two different baskets. And if you did, you would be right. Because what they were really practicing is the ability to discriminate, the ability to see and judge between the different distances, rather than just trying to practice the same distance over and over. So if we can build that skill of discrimination, of being able to tell the distances between notes, we're going to be way more accurate when we jump. So if I jump back to our exercises here, I'm going to zoom in on this one. Let's say you're struggling with this jump in particular. Instead of just practicing this, even it makes me a little bit nervous. Instead of just practicing this one over and over, I'm gonna try going further than that E. Oh, I got a little farther. Can I get it even a little farther? Oh, I did it, nice, okay. Always nice to know that I've still got it. Now, can I go under? Oh, there it is. Can I do the octave? Okay, can I go one more? Oh, one more. There it is, there it is. Do you see how I'm trying to feel the difference between the distances and not just kind of memorize one particular distance, if that makes sense? So as you're practicing this, I would do the basket method. Actually, don't try and hit the note that you're aiming for. Try and go below and above and see if you can do that. Now, one note on leaps. Obviously, if there are big leaps in a piece, like we'll want you to look. But for leaps that are, close, the more comfortable you are with leaps and the less you have to look, the harder music you're going to be able to sight read. So again, I'm not saying you can never look at the piano ever while you play. I think, in fact, there are times that you should. But what I'm saying is, if you can get better at the leaps, you're going to get better overall and feel more comfortable as you sight read. Isn't that cool? So again, I wrote a couple of exercises for you. I think they sound kind of nice, especially if you play them with pedal. And as you're doing leaps, one last hint, especially with these far leaps, I would recommend doing it with pedal. And if you can see my piano visualizer, see I'm really not holding these notes very long. It's almost like I'm playing them staccato, but I'm holding the pedal down. And that's because by playing them short, but with the pedal, I actually give myself more time to play the leap. Because if I try and hold the note all the way and then try and jump all the way to the note, I'm not gonna have enough time to get there. So I would recommend playing these short You could even do these without pedal and play them all staccato. I think that would be a terrific exercise for you. So again, I would recommend doing these all with pinky. If you want to go for an even harder challenge, might recommend maybe even trying different fingers for these upper notes, maybe third finger, maybe fourth finger, but pinky would be the best place to start with this, with leaps. Okay, and again, you can download all of this in the description below. Last thing I have for you is some chords. Chords are really important because up till this point, we've only played one note at a time, but often when we're sight reading, we have lots more than just one note to play. So what we really want to do is be comfortable playing lots of different chords or multiple notes at once and feeling how those move. So there's a couple of main ways that chords move that I've outlined here. We've got parallel chords where, as you can see, the chords kind of all have the same shape and they're just kind of moving up and down. And maybe they skip a little bit, but they're not going all over the place just yet. Another types of chords that we have is these broken chords, which are chords, but as you can see, they're just broken up a little bit, right? Here's a chord, and I've just broken up into a bottom note and then two top notes. Really good to get familiar with that and how those can move. The other types of chords that you'll definitely want to be familiar with are inverted chords. So these are where we have the three same notes of a chord. All we're doing is mixing up the order. So these two chords that I've outlined here are actually the same chord. I just took the C and then put it on top. And so if you can kind of recognize that, oh man, you're gonna be able to process lots of notes at once rather than trying to process each one of these notes individually. So I've got inverted chords. I have several different inverted chords exercises because those are pretty challenging. And then finally, the last kind of main chord you'll probably want to know is the seventh chords. And these are harder because now we have 4 notes onto them. So I'm adding a note with my pinky on there. And I think they sound really nice. Oh man, I love the sound of these chords. But again, if you want to sight read stuff that's a little bit jazzier, or maybe late romantic music, having a good sense of how these seventh chords move is going to serve you really, really well.